Have you ever wondered why Hades, the god of the underworld, was truly banished? Today, we're going to reveal a secret that will not only change everything you thought you knew about Hades but also touch your emotions, as we uncover the plots and betrayals between him, Zeus, and Persephone. Be prepared to unravel mysteries that directly connect to the heart of justice and mercy in Greek mythology. You'll never see these gods the same way again. Amidst the intricate tapestry of Greek mythology, the figure of Hades stands out not only as the ruler of the underworld but also as a character often misunderstood by conventional narratives. Contrary to what many might think, Hades wasn't exactly banished to the underworld. His rise to the throne of shadows was the result of an agreement among the three brothers, Zeus, Poseidon, and himself, after the Titanomachy, the war against the Titans. The division of the universe was made in a way that Zeus ruled the skies, Poseidon the seas, and Hades the underworld. But why the underworld? Was the choice purely logical, or was there something more subtle at play? As we delve deeper into this question, an intriguing perspective emerges: the possible envy of the other gods. Hades, in assuming control of the underworld, became not only the guardian of the souls of the dead but also of invaluable resources, such as precious metals buried within the earth. This underground wealth, often overlooked in the accounts of more popular myths, could have aroused the covetousness of other deities. Moreover, Hades' own isolation, distant from the Olympian intrigues, granted him a unique position of power and autonomy, aspects that could have been viewed with resentment or even envy by his peers on Mount Olympus. The narrative of a banishment may have been a later construction, a way to explain Hades' natural distancing from the other divinities, casting him as a shadowy and isolated figure, aligned with the stigma of his realm. This interpretation becomes even more plausible when considering how figures of authority in the underworld are often portrayed negatively in the traditions of various cultures. Thus, the stigma surrounding Hades could be an extension of this cultural view, amplified by the stories told in the world above his dark domain. Another often overlooked aspect is the balance of power that Hades' banishment established among the gods. With Hades firmly established in the underworld, Zeus in the sky, and Poseidon in the seas, there was a clear and strategic division of domains that may have been deliberately designed to prevent conflicts of interest and power struggles. This separation of domains ensured that each of the brothers had their own realm to rule, a preventive measure against the pooling of forces that could threaten Zeus' sovereignty as the king of the gods. Therefore, upon re-examining the myth of Hades through these lenses, we can begin to see his banishment, not as an exile but as a complex facet of a larger divine strategy. Envy and strategy may have gone hand in hand in ancient Olympian politics, with Hades assuming a role that, while filled with shadows and isolation, was essential for maintaining balance and order among the gods. The truth about Hades is both a reflection of his power and importance and a reassessment of our understanding of justice and morality within the Greek pantheon. Hades, the lord of the underworld in Greek mythology, often emerges in our studies as a figure shrouded in mystery and misunderstanding. Unlike his brothers Zeus and Poseidon, who reign over the skies and seas respectively, Hades rules the realm of the dead, a domain that, by its dark nature, inspires fear and distance. But why is Hades often seen as a banished or less favorable figure? The answer lies deeply rooted in the distribution of power among the three brothers, a theme that transcends the surface of Greek myths. At the end of the Titanomachy, the war between the Olympian gods and the Titans, the brothers divided the universe. Zeus received the skies, Poseidon the seas, and Hades, through a draw, the underworld. This moment of division is crucial to understanding the power dynamics that were established. Zeus, with control over the heavens, assumed a position of ultimate authority, often depicted as the king of the gods. Poseidon, though powerful, was more of a potential rival to Zeus, while Hades, relegated to the invisible realm of the dead, was seen as less influential in matters of the living and the gods on Mount Olympus. This allocation of realms had significant implications for the perception of Hades. His association with death and the unknown fostered a stigma around his figure, often misunderstood and involved in legends that highlight his isolation and severity. Furthermore, his rarity in stories set on Olympus or on Earth contributes to this view of exile among the gods. This distancing is reflected in the mythological structures themselves, where Hades rarely interferes in the affairs of other gods, remaining in his dark realm. However, looking beyond the stereotype of the dark and vengeful god, one realizes that Hades is, in many ways, a fair and essential deity. He imposes order in the underworld and ensures that the rites of passage for the dead are respected, a role that is crucial for maintaining balance between the worlds. His governance, though severe, is marked by strict adherence to rules and justice, a facet that is often overshadowed by more sensationalistic interpretations. Ultimately, the perception of Hades as a banished god stems more from a misunderstood distribution of power and the nature of his realm, than from his conduct as a ruler. The mythology surrounding Hades is rich and complex, reflecting themes of justice, inevitability, and the role of the individual in the cosmos. Unraveling these layers, we discover not only more about Hades but also about the essence of ancient Greek culture and belief. This in-depth look reveals a god whose story is as vital as any other in the Greek pantheon, deserving of a more nuanced and respectful understanding. As we delve into Greek mythology, we encounter Hades, the god of the underworld, often shrouded in mysteries and misunderstandings. Unlike his brothers Zeus and Poseidon, who rule over the sky and sea respectively, Hades reigns over the realm of the dead, a domain that many consider dark and desolate. But how did Hades come to occupy this position? Did he choose this fate, or was it an exile imposed by the whims of fate and the gods? The division of the universe among the three brothers occurred after the Titanomachy, the war between the Titans and the Olympian gods led by Zeus. According to legend, Zeus, Poseidon, and Hades cast lots to determine who would rule each domain. Zeus obtained the sky, Poseidon the seas, and Hades the underworld. This seemingly random allocation raises an intriguing question: did Hades truly draw the short straw, or was there a deeper purpose behind this assignment? Historians and mythology experts suggest that Hades' role as ruler of the underworld was not just an imposition, but a cosmic necessity. The underworld, contrary to popular belief, was not only a place of punishment but also of order and justice. Hades, with his fair and relentless character, was perhaps the only one capable of administering such a realm with the necessary equity. He imposed clear rules and ensured that the judgments of the dead were conducted fairly, a role that requires a ruler of reserved and introspective nature like Hades. Furthermore, the idea of forced exile loses strength when we consider the autonomy and power that Hades held in his realm. He not only ruled but also had absolute authority within his borders, something even Zeus could not infringe upon. The story of Persephone, who becomes his queen, reveals the complexity and depth of his domain, demonstrating that Hades had the ability to affect not only the world of the dead but also that of the living, connecting and maintaining balance between these two worlds. Therefore, as we reflect on Hades' exclusion to the underworld, It is essential to recognize his essential role in maintaining the order of the cosmos. He was not a lesser or less powerful god, on the contrary, his governance was vital for the stability of the Greek universe. Far from being an exile, his reign in the underworld was indispensable, marked by a depth and complexity that only a god with his characteristics could successfully manage. Exploring the true story of the marriage between Hades and Persephone, we delve into a narrative rich and multifaceted, full of complexities that are often overshadowed by simplistic interpretations. The most common version, portraying Hades as a relentless kidnapper and Persephone as a helpless victim, does not do justice to the depth and diverse meanings that this myth carries in different cultural traditions of ancient Greece. Firstly, it is essential to understand that the marriage of Hades and Persephone is often interpreted as a representation of the natural cycles of death and rebirth. Persephone, daughter of Demeter, goddess of agriculture, spends half of the year in the underworld and the other half on earth, symbolizing the seasons. This division reflects not only the balance between life and death, but also between the known and the unknown. Thus, the marriage can be seen as a necessary link that maintains the balance of the natural and spiritual world. Furthermore, deeper studies reveal that in some local traditions, Persephone is portrayed as a goddess with powers over death and life, long before her marriage to Hades. This interpretation suggests a much more balanced power dynamic between the two, challenging the idea that Persephone was merely subdued. In fact, she may have wielded great authority in the underworld, ruling alongside Hades as a sovereign goddess, representing an active and consensual role in her destiny, far from the victim narrative often attributed to her. Further exploring the relationship between Hades and Persephone, we discover nuances that suggest a union based on respect and mutual need, contradicting the idea of a violent abduction. In some versions of the myth, Zeus himself, Persephone's father, agrees to the marriage, indicating that it could have been a diplomatic arrangement among the gods, aimed at maintaining order and divine power. Finally, it is vital to highlight that the narrative of Hades and Persephone's marriage intertwines with themes of autonomy, female power, and sovereignty over one's destiny. These interpretations offer a much more empowering view of Persephone, highlighting her evolution from a naive young woman to an influential and respected queen of the underworld. This perspective on the myth invites us to reconsider not only the characters involved but also the lessons they bring to contemporary issues of power and female independence. Persephone is often portrayed as the victim kidnapped by Hades and taken to the underworld. However, a deeper analysis of her mythology suggests a much more complex and influential figure. Contrary to the traditional image of a damsel in distress, Persephone adapts to her new role as queen of the underworld, displaying significant autonomy and power. Her status is not only the result of an imposed fate but also of her own choices and astute adaptation to the unusual circumstances she faces. In the myth, Hades, the god of the underworld, falls in love with Persephone and, in an act of love and desperation, kidnaps her. The common narration paints Hades as the villain and Persephone as the victim, but this interpretation fails to recognize Persephone's evolution from a passive figure to an influential and respected ruler. Over time, she not only accepts her fate but also shapes it, exerting her power over the dead and sometimes even challenging Hades himself. Viewing Persephone solely as a victim ignores her vital role in the cycle of seasons and agriculture, essential elements for ancient societies. Her annual return to the surface marks the spring and the rebirth of the earth, symbolism that reflects her importance and power not only in the underworld but also in the upper world. This dual power highlights her ability to navigate and influence both realms, a skill that transcends the narrative of her initial submission. It is also crucial to consider the perspective that her stay in the underworld may have been part of a larger arrangement among the gods, including her mother, Demeter, and Zeus. Persephone, instead of being merely a pawn in a game of divine power, may have seen an opportunity to exert her own influence and authority, an interpretation that challenges the notion that she was permanently victimized by her circumstances. Upon re-evaluating Persephone's story, we see a woman who emerges as a figure of power and resilience. Her journey from captivity to the crown as queen of the underworld is a narrative of empowerment and strategy. Persephone is not just a victim of a cruel fate, but a shrewd ruler who finds strength and sovereignty in her new life, defying expectations and redefining her story. This look at her figure brings a new dimension to Greek mythology, highlighting the complexity and depth of its characters and their stories. Hades, often painted as the sinister villain of Greek mythology, actually governed the underworld with a complexity that transcends the simplistic narrative of tyranny. His image as a dark despot partly originates from a superficial understanding of the role he played. Unlike Zeus, who ruled over the skies, and Poseidon, who commanded the seas, Hades was tasked with the underworld, a realm inevitably associated with death and discomfort. This association, however, does not reflect the entirety of his character or his rule. Hades' governance was marked by strict adherence to law and order, an imperative need in a domain where the souls of the dead converged. He enforced clear rules and defined consequences, elements that are often interpreted as tyranny, but in many cases were manifestations of justice. For example, the myth of Sisyphus, who was condemned to roll a stone eternally for attempting to deceive death, highlights Hades' inflexibility in maintaining order but also underscores his commitment to justice. Furthermore, perceptions of Hades are often influenced by the nature of his realm itself. The underworld, described in ancient sources not only as a place of punishment but also as a resting ground for indifferent souls, and even an Elysium for the virtuous, reflects a complexity that goes beyond common understanding. This multifaceted realm required a ruler capable of administering equitable justice, a role that Hades fulfilled with a notable balance between severity and fairness. Re-examining ancient sources, from Homer's The Odyssey to descriptions of Hades in works like Hesiod's Theogony, one perceives a less villainous figure and more an entity responsible for maintaining balance. He is often portrayed as a solitary god, lacking the charisma of Zeus or the unpredictability of Poseidon, but his constancy offers a glimpse of stability crucial to the functioning of the underworld. Finally, it is essential to question and reassess representations of Hades in light of deeper analysis and less influenced by modern prejudices. Mythology, as a reflection of human and divine complexities, offers multiple facets of its characters. Hades, as the ruler of the underworld, plays his role with a justice that, though sometimes severe, is fundamental to the maintenance of order and balance. By exploring these nuances, one can begin to see Hades not as a dark tyrant but as a just administrator of a realm inevitably linked to human mortality. As we delve into the depths of Greek mythology, we encounter Hades, often painted with the dark hues of death and the underworld. However, this one-dimensional view neglects the generous and protective aspects of this complex deity. Ruler of the underworld, Hades is paradoxically a source of life and abundance. His association with fertility and wealth is fundamental to understanding his true role in the Greek pantheon. Hades, though often portrayed as a somber and isolated god, was actually a guardian of invaluable riches. The underground mines, teeming with precious minerals and gemstones, were seen as his direct domain. Moreover, the belief that seeds need to be buried in the soil, a realm of Hades, to germinate and bring forth life, illustrates his intrinsic connection to fertility and the cycle of life and death, essential foundations for agriculture and, by extension, human life. This closer look reveals a Hades who not only accepts the dead but also promotes the cycle of life, protecting souls and ensuring that natural balance is maintained. Far from just the Lord of lost souls, he is a vital protector of natural and spiritual order. The stability of his underworld realm is reflected in his personality, fair, impartial, and essentially vital for the continuity of life as we know it. Furthermore, lesser-known myths illustrate Hades' generosity. He is often seen as a god who does not meddle in the affairs of other gods, remaining true to his own realm. This autonomy does not indicate isolation but a deep understanding of his duties and limits. The wealth of the underworld is not merely material but also spiritual and cultural, offering a richer and more complex view of the god than popular tales suggest. Therefore, as we reflect on Hades, it is crucial to recognize his multidimensionality. Far from being the villain often painted by modern narratives, Hades is a guardian of life and death, a maintainer of balance and justice, and a benefactor who, silently, sustains the fabric of existence. The truth about Hades lies not in his trivialization as the god of the underworld, but in his celebration as a figure of immense importance and complexity in Greek mythology.